The email came at exactly 3:17 p.m. A hotel booking confirmation, 1 king bed, ocean view, champagne package. And it wasn't for me. It was sent by my husband's assistant, Lila Morgan. She meant to forward it to him. Instead, it landed in my inbox. 16 years of marriage, 3 miscarriages, a company we built from scratch together. And now this. He told me he'd be in Denver for a client meeting. Instead, he booked a romantic weekend at a luxury resort with her. And something inside me didn't break, it crystallized. Because sometimes revenge is loud, but sometimes it's quiet, strategic, and deeply, deeply personal. I didn't scream, I didn't confront. I simply made a phone call to her fiancé, and I asked him, "Are you free this weekend? I have an opportunity you might want to see with your own eyes. Tell me if it were you, would you do what I did? Have you ever caught someone you loved betraying you behind your back? What did you do, or what would you want to do? Leave your story in the comments, and if you want to hear what happened next, subscribe. This is only the beginning." My name is Celeste Harrington. I'm 39 years old. Co-founder of Harrington Miles Solutions, one of the fastest growing tech consultancies on the West Coast. And until 3 weeks ago, I thought I was married to the love of my life. Marcus and I met in grad school. He had charm vision, the kind of charisma that drew people in. I had strategy, precision, and the discipline to turn that vision into structure. Together, we were unstoppable. We married young, poured everything into our dream, and launched the company from a 2-car garage in Santa Rosa. He handled investor relations and media. I handled legal ops and infrastructure. He was the face. I was the engine. 16 years, 2 homes, 3 devastating miscarriages, countless sleepless nights chasing deadlines. And always, always I had his back. At least, I thought he had mine. It started with small shifts. The way he avoided eye contact when I entered a room, late meetings, trips with no agendas, a second phone which he claimed was for security protocols, and then Lila. Lila Morgan joined us 2 years ago, bright, efficient, polished, but a little too available, a little too quick to laugh at his jokes, a little too familiar with his schedule. I noticed the way she lingered in doorways, the way her hand would touch his arm when handing him reports. And Marcus. He brushed it off as me being paranoid. "Celeste, she's young. She admires you," he said. But she didn't look at me the way she looked at him. Still, I stayed silent, because after all we'd been through, I wanted to believe I was wrong. I wanted to believe we were just going through a rough patch, that we'd make it out like we always did together. Then the email came. I was in my office prepping slides for a strategy meeting when it landed. Subject line: Monte Vista itinerary, final confirmation. No greeting, no signature, just the booking. La Palma Cove Resort, one of the most luxurious oceanfront resorts in California. Check-in Friday. Check-out Sunday. A single king room complete with rose petals and champagne service. It was a reservation Marcus had clearly intended to keep secret. A reservation Lila had accidentally or perhaps carelessly forwarded to me instead of him. In that moment, everything stilled. Not because I didn't suspect, but because now I knew. He wasn't in Denver. He was lying to my face. Again. And worse. He was smiling while doing it. I looked at the screen, then at the framed photo on my desk. Our 10-year anniversary in Paris. Me in a navy dress, Marcus, in that silver tie I bought him. He was kissing my temple. I was laughing. Now I wondered, was he already betraying me? Even then I closed the laptop, straightened my blouse, and walked into the meeting room like nothing had happened. Because if he was going to play games behind my back, then I'd make sure the ending wasn't what he expected. It would be mine, on my terms, and no one would see it coming. Especially not him, and especially not her. That evening, Marcus came home late. Suit jacket slung over one shoulder, tie loosened. Still playing the role of the exhausted executive. He kissed my cheek absently, like always. "I've got a flight out to Denver Friday morning," he said, grabbing a bottle of water from the fridge. "Reynolds Group is close to signing the upgrade package. Big weekend." I nodded, swirling the wine in my glass. "Sounds important." He didn't meet my eyes. He never did anymore. I asked casually, Do you need me to review anything before you leave? He waved it off. Lila's prepping the materials. She'll have everything ready. Of course she would. Later that night, I lay in bed beside him, staring at the ceiling as his breathing deepened into sleep. The man beside me looked peaceful, even content, as though nothing weighed on his conscience, as though the last 16 years of our life together didn't matter. My eyes drifted toward the window. Through the darkness, I could see the soft glow of the garden lights. Marcus had insisted on installing them last summer. He'd said the yard needed romance. Funny now, considering how little of that he left for me. The next morning, while he was out running errands, I called our HR director. Janet, I said, I need Lila Morgan's personnel file. Yes, the full one. And yes, it's urgent. Janet hesitated, then said quietly, Understood. I'll send it to your private inbox. 20 minutes later, the file arrived. Employment history, emergency contact. Listed under in case of emergency was a name I recognized, Adam Monroe. Fiancé. Same Adam who worked 3 desks down from the DevOps team. I blinked. I'd passed Adam countless times in the hallway. He was polite, reserved, always buried in lines of code. There was a framed photo on his desk, him and Lila on a hike, smiling with windswept hair. Did he know? Did he suspect anything at all? Because if he didn't, then we had more in common than he realized. That afternoon, I took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Adam was at his desk, glasses sliding down his nose, eyes locked on his screen. He looked up when he saw me approaching, surprised. Mrs. Harrington, he stood up quickly. Do you need something? I smiled gently. That predictive analytics demo you gave last month, impressive work. His face brightened. Thank you. I didn't think anyone outside the engineering team noticed. I noticed, I said. And I think you might be perfect for a special client session we're holding this weekend. He looked puzzled. This weekend? Yes, at La Palma Cove Resort. I watched his reaction closely. He hesitated. Lila and I had plans to visit her parents, but I'm sure she'd understand. I'm sure she would, I replied. Then turned and walked away. Back in my office, I stared at my wedding ring, 3 carats upgraded for our 10-year anniversary. It felt like dead weight, a promise broken in ways Marcus didn't think I could ever prove. But I wasn't just going to prove it. I was going to show it publicly, indisputably. And I was going to do it at the exact moment he believed he was untouchable. That night, I drafted an email. Subject line: emergency strategy session. Board attendance required location: La Palma Cove Resort. Time: Saturday, 11:00 a.m. Note: confidential. Attendance mandatory. I sent it to our board of directors, 2 trusted VPs, and the legal advisor I knew would understand. No explanation, no drama, just facts, just timing. 16 years of being the silent strength behind the curtain. 16 years of building, supporting, covering. Now I would expose everything he thought he buried, and I wouldn't even have to raise my voice. By Thursday morning, the plan was in motion. Every piece was sliding into place with chilling precision. I told Marcus I'd be spending the weekend at a mindfulness retreat. No phones, I added, sipping my coffee. Total disconnect. He nodded approvingly. You deserve it, he said. The lie tasted sweet in his mouth. He didn't ask where. He didn't care. He already had his weekend mapped out. By noon, I had packed my bag, simple, sleek, sharp. Power suits, my favorite crimson sheath dress, a pair of black stilettos I hadn't worn in months, and lingerie I used to wear for Marcus, before he stopped noticing. I opened the safe in our bedroom and retrieved a flash drive. It contained backups of every expense report I'd flagged over the past 6 months. Hotel charges, jewelry purchases, unexplained travel, all categorized, all matched against fake client meetings that never existed. I also brought along something more dangerous than data: intent, focused, final. Before leaving, I stared at our wedding photo on the hallway wall. He was 26, grinning like a boy who'd just won the lottery. And I looked hopeful, too hopeful. I turned it face down, then left the house without looking back. La Palma Cove Resort rose like a monument above the cliff's marble columns, sweeping terraces and ocean wind curling around every corner. I checked into my suite 1 floor above where Marcus and Lila would be. From the balcony, I had a perfect view of the valet circle. At 3:15 p.m., I saw them. Marcus opened the passenger door with flourish. Lila stepped out, all pastel floral and laughter hand in his. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. She kissed his cheek. They looked free, unafraid, like people who thought they'd gotten away with it. I took a photo, then another. As the bellhop took their luggage, Marcus slipped an arm around her waist. They entered the elevator. Room 412, champagne on ice. Ocean view. I called room service, ordered dinner, and accessed the Harrington Miles corporate portal from my laptop. Using executive credentials, I logged into the expense management dashboard. The trail was all there, dinners labeled client pitch, spa charges coded under wellness consultation, an engagement ring from Tiffany & Co. purchased just last week. Lila had started wearing gloves to meetings. I thought it was vanity. Now I knew better. This wasn't an affair. It was infrastructure. They had been planning this. Maybe not just the weekend. Maybe my removal from the company, from the marriage, from everything I helped build. I remembered last winter, our third miscarriage. Marcus had been snowed in at a conference in Chicago. I was alone in the hospital room, holding my phone, waiting, bleeding, praying. He didn't call. Now I wondered, was he even in Chicago? Or was he already with her? At midnight, I called Mary. She answered on the first ring. "Tell me not to do this," I whispered. She was silent for a long moment. "Then I won't. You always protected him. Now protect yourself." I hung up, closed my laptop, and curled up on the sofa. No tears came, only stillness, only resolve. By morning, I was calm. I dressed carefully tailored pantsuit, sleek bun, minimal makeup, matte lipstick. At 9:55, I walked into the lobby. Adam was already there, standing by the fountain, laptop bag slung over his shoulder. Eager, trusting, unaware. He smiled when he saw me. "Mrs. Harrington, thank you again for this opportunity." I swallowed the guilt. I had no choice. He deserved to know. "Adam," I said softly, "there's something I need to tell you. There's no client meeting. There never was." He blinked. "I don't understand. I need you to come with me. Please, you need to see something for yourself." The elevator ride to the 4th floor was silent. He looked confused, hesitant. I looked straight ahead, because what came next was the moment we both stopped being deceived and started rewriting the script. We reached the 4th floor. I stopped outside room 412. My heart thudded once, then went silent. Inside, I could hear laughter. Marcus's deep chuckle, Lila's musical giggle, the kind she never used in meetings. Adam stared at the door, confused, then horrified. "No," he whispered. "She said she was in San Diego, visiting her sister." "She lied," I said softly. So did he. He leaned back against the wall, pale and stunned. I didn't speak. I let the sounds on the other side of that door speak for themselves. The intimacy, the betrayal. "She's my fiancé," he said, barely breathing. "We were planning a September wedding." I nodded. I thought Marcus and I were planning a life. We stood there for several minutes, not saying anything, not needing to. When Adam finally looked at me, his eyes had changed. "No more pretending," he said. "Good," I replied, "because I need your help." Back in my suite, I pulled up a folder on my laptop. Emails, receipts, fake reports, all carefully sorted. But I needed more. Technical access, encrypted documents, files Marcus thought I'd never see. Adam pulled out his laptop. I designed our system's backend. If he's hiding something, I'll find it. Within minutes, he was deep in the code. He bypassed firewalls like they were speed bumps. Soon we were staring at files Marcus had labeled as Q4 budget prep. Inside were outlines for legal restructuring, dilution strategies, and a draft of divorce papers. Filed, backdated. He was planning to gut me from the inside out, fire me from my own company, steal everything I'd helped him build, and walk away hand in hand with his assistant. Adam sat back. "He was going to blindside you, and she was going to leave you," I said. "They were never planning to tell us." We were quiet for a moment. Not broken, not angry, something else. Sharper. Ready. "What do you want me to do?" Adam asked. I turned the screen toward him. "At 11:30, I need you to call their room. Say there's a critical systems breach, something only they can address. Tell them to come immediately to the conference room." He nodded. And then we wait. The resort's conference room was on the ground floor, Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the ocean. I had chosen it carefully, an open space full of light. There would be no shadows to hide in. At 11:00 a.m., sharp the board members began to arrive. Some confused, some suspicious, but all loyal. I greeted each of them, calmly handed out tablets with the compiled report. Evidence of Marcus's misconduct, his abuse of company funds, his personal betrayal, all laid bare. My closest ally, Eleanor Carter. Our CFO leaned in as she scanned the files. "Are you sure about this?" I was sure the day he stopped looking me in the eyes. At 11:28, I looked across the room. Adam was in the corner, phone in hand. He nodded once, then dialed. "Lila, hey, it's urgent. Something's happening with our data nodes. Marcus needs to come too. Main conference room. Now." A pause. Then "Thanks. See you in a few." He hung up, and everything went still. I stood at the head of the table. One breath, two, and waited. At 11:42, the door opened. Marcus entered first, brow-furrowed, phone in hand, still in performance mode. Behind him, Lila froze mid-step. Her eyes locked on Adam, then on me, then on the sea of board members. The trap had sprung. Marcus tried to recover. "Celeste." "What is this?" I smiled. "A board meeting. Emergency session." "About what? About you?" He laughed nervously. "There must be a mistake." "There was," I said evenly. "I made the mistake of trusting you." I picked up the remote and clicked. The screen behind me lit up with images, Marcus and Lila checking in, dining, kissing by the elevator, and then the receipts, the ring, the cover-ups. He turned to Lila. "What is this?" But she said nothing. Adam stepped forward. "I was invited to this meeting. Were you?" The room was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. And Marcus Harrington, the man who built a fortune on image, watched that image fracture right in front of him. Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Celeste, I can explain." "You will," I said, calmly, to the entire board. Lila shifted behind him, clearly shaken. Her eyes darted from me to Adam, who hadn't moved. His arms were crossed, his jaw tight. I clicked the remote again. The next slide showed the Tiffany's receipt. "An engagement ring," I said. "Purchased last Thursday, charged to the company under executive gifts." Lila gasped. Board members leaned in. Marcus opened his mouth, but CFO Eleanor cut him off. "We reviewed the purchases. The evidence is overwhelming." Another slide: expense reports with redacted clients, private events, and falsified invoices. "This isn't about infidelity," I continued. "This is about financial misconduct, corporate fraud, and intent to dismantle company leadership from the inside." "I built this company," Marcus shouted, finally snapping. "I made it what it is." "No," I said, eyes locked on his. "We did. But you tried to take it away from me." Board member James O'Connell, an old-school investor with zero tolerance for scandal, cleared his throat. In light of the documentation and breach of fiduciary duty, he said, "I move for a vote of no confidence in Marcus Harrington as CEO." I second, Eleanor added without hesitation. The vote passed unanimously. In a matter of minutes, the man I had built an empire with was stripped of title access authority. Security was called. Marcus was asked to step outside. He looked at me one last time, eyes wild. "You set me up." "No," I replied. "You exposed yourself. I just turned on the lights." As he was escorted out, I turned to Lila. "HR will be in touch about your termination. Do not return to the office." Tears slid down her face. She turned to Adam, lips trembling. "Please?" "I didn't mean for any of this." Adam didn't flinch. "You meant every moment you spent with him." She reached for his hand. He stepped back. "I was going to propose to you next week," he said quietly. "Now I feel lucky I didn't." Lila collapsed into a chair as security came for her too. No one looked at her. No one offered sympathy. When they were both gone, the room sat in stunned silence. And I stood tall. For years I said I was told to be the glue, the support, the one who stayed quiet and kept things moving behind the scenes. But I will never be silent again. One by one, the board members nodded, then began filing out. A few patted my shoulder. Others offered solemn glances, but they all understood the era of Marcus Harrington was over. Now, it was mine. Only Adam and I remained in the room, He turned to me. "You didn't just take back your company," he said. "You reclaimed your dignity. For both of us." I wasn't sure I'd get through it, I admitted. But now, I feel lighter. Like I finally exhaled after years of holding my breath. Adam smiled softly. "So what happens now?" Now I looked out at the Pacific beyond the glass. Now we rebuild. 1 year later, I stood by the window in my new office, the CEO's office. From the 34th floor, the city stretched wide beneath me. Steel and light, concrete and ambition. Exactly the kind of skyline Marcus once said we'd conquer together. And we did. But now I was here on my own. After the board vote, Marcus disappeared from public view. He moved to Seattle, took a senior role at a second-tier startup. No press releases, no speaking engagements, no empire. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. He didn't contest anything. Too much evidence, too little left to salvage. Harrington Miles not only survived the scandal, it thrived. Under my leadership, we launched 2 mentorship programs for women in tech. 3 major new accounts signed. Employee satisfaction hit record highs. There were whispers at first. The media speculated. But the results spoke louder than any rumor. I didn't just take control. I proved I'd always been the backbone. One afternoon, I received a delivery from my sister Mary. A gift bag with a photo frame inside. It was me at 8 years old standing behind a lemonade stand. Grinning, proud, independent. Mary had written, "You told Mom you didn't want to wait for someone to give you money. You wanted to earn it. You always knew." That night, I went to dinner alone at my favorite restaurant. The maitre d' smiled. "Will someone be joining you, Miss Harrington?" "No," I said. "Just me tonight." Halfway through the meal, my phone buzzed. A message from Adam. "Happy birthday. I hope you're celebrating in your own style." I typed back, "Thank you." "I am. Also. The tech gala's next weekend. Want to come as friends?" His reply was instant. "I'd like that. As friends? For now." I smiled. Not because I needed anyone beside me, but because I chose who stood beside me now. That was the difference. Revenge didn't mean destroying them. It meant remembering who I was before they forgot my worth. As I raised my glass to the quiet candlelit corner, I whispered, "To never settling for less." Again. And the woman looking back at me in the window. She wasn't shattered. She wasn't bitter. She was whole. And that was the most satisfying revenge of all. What did you think of Celeste's story? If you were in her position, would you have done the same, or would you have walked away silently? Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. If you support Celeste's courage, comment, "Our justice served." And don't forget to subscribe to EN Reddit Story, so you never miss a new drama, a deep betrayal, and a powerful comeback.